79-210-056 Goleta self-storage case numbers 24-0002-DP/24-0001-CUP/24-0011-DRB.
Very good. All right, declarations. Tamisha, you visited the site?
I actually have to recuse myself.
So that doesn't matter then.
Oh, I see the site.
No, I'm
I
kidding.
see the site every day.
That's okay.
No.
All right, Jonathan?
No recent site visit, no ex parte.
Okay, Dennis?
Site visit, no ex parte.
I visited the site today and no ex parte. Martha?
Previous and no ex parte.
Site visit today and no ex parte.
Cecilia?
No site visit, no ex parte.
Okay, very good. Travis, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon again, Chair Branch and members of the board. This is for the Goleta self-storage project at 7780 Hollister Avenue. They are here for a conceptual review again. They were previously reviewed on April 8th of this year, where they received mixed comments. There were concerns regarding the height, size, bulk, and scale, and landscape screening. The applicant has removed all third-story elements from the proposal and reduced structural development from approximately 203,000 square feet to approximately 167,000 square feet for a reduction of 36,180 square feet. The applicant also broke up the roof lines, reduced the use of corrugated steel, added more trees to the plan palette, and enhanced the landscaping to soften the building frontages. They're back with a revised plan set for your review.
Okay, very good. Troy, floor is yours.
All right. Well, good afternoon. My name is Troy White with TW Land Planning Development, representing the owner applicant. To my right, I have Ed Boersma, the owner's rep. To my left, I have Freddie Carrillo, senior planner with our firm, TW Land Planning Development. To his left, we have Philip Stevens, our designer. And then to his left, we have Aaron Carroll, our landscape architect. We're excited to be before you here tonight. We think we have a beautiful commercial project that responds to DRB's comments. I'd like to provide a brief summary of the comments we heard from you at our last meeting on the 8th of April, and then provide a high-level overview of our efforts to respond to DRB's comments. Travis stole some of my thunder, so there may be some repeats. I'll then turn over the presentation to Phil Stevens to review the project architecture, followed by Aaron Carroll to discuss landscape architecture. This will be followed by a project flyby presentation video that Phil will narrate. And then finally, I will close our presentation with a few comments. So at our last DRB hearing, we heard the following, that the building massing and roof lines needed work. There were too many competing architectural elements. We needed to simplify the design. Building height should be studied, particularly at Building A, which is at Las Armas in the northwest corner of the project site. Some three-story elements would be acceptable, but only a setback wedding caked from the street. The excessive use of corrugated steel should be studied. Preservation of existing trees should be studied, particularly along Las Armas, and that the monument signage is preferred over wall signage. So we appreciated very much DRB's comments. In response, the project has been redesigned. The project has been substantially reduced in size, bulk, and scale. We reduced the size by over 36,000 square feet, which is 18% of the project. The design has been simplified using a rural farm aesthetic, seeking to embrace Goleta's agricultural roots. We have replaced stucco, shiplap siding, and stone veneer with metal board and batten siding. Use of corrugated metal siding has also been substantially reduced and is now used to accent building elements. All three-story elements have been eliminated. And that was as a result of the ownership really wanting to, hearing from the DRB, but also from the neighborhood adjacent to us being a concern. So eliminated all three-story elements. So now all buildings are now either 1 or 2 stories. The rectilinear boxy roof lines have been replaced with pitched roofs with barn-like roof lines forms. Wood barn and doors and windows have been added to further break up the building massing. Given the current use of the site as a parking lot, I think we have to admit that any proposed change of use would require landscape revisions, including tree removal. I want to note that Similar, our project next door, the Hideaway, original Haskell's Landing, removed 295 trees when it went through its entitlement efforts. We have worked closely, however, with our design team to save 27 existing trees while also proposing an additional 92 trees be planted on site and within the parkway. To screen the existing utility lines in the proposed buildings, we are proposing to save 11 of the trees along Los Armas, and that was also in response to both comments received from the DRB and of the public. I should note the project includes 33% landscape coverage, and the project incorporates preservation of large oaks, eucalyptus, and wetland habitat along the northern property line. In addition, the sidewalk along Hollister has been redesigned with a curvilinear path, taking advantage of the generous landscape area up front that we're proposing. Lastly, all wall signs have been eliminated. We'll be going with monument signs. So a couple matters of clarification, and largely less so in response to your comments, but as you've seen, we've received a host of comments from the public, and so just felt like this would be an appropriate forum to provide some information relative to the project. So our hours of operation are quite limited. It'll be 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., so a 12-hour day. There are two driveways, one at Villajaro, the other at Las Armas. The one at Las Armas, which is adjacent to the Hideaway project, that is for emergency access only. So that's for fire truck engines to be going through there, secondary access. So you will not see regular vehicular activity on that driveway. The primary driveway, the public driveway, will be off of Villajaro. So just want to provide that level of clarification. Relative to lighting, photometric lighting plans show that there will be no light spill across any of the property lines. Lighting will be hooded and directed downward and will be dark sky compliant. The site is enclosed to limit light spill, and the hours of operation, along with the gates, will limit any vehicular lights projecting outward. That was a concern of one of our neighbors. Relative to setbacks, I know not heard from this board, there were a number of public comments regarding increased setbacks, and I feel like we've been very generous in our landscape setbacks, and our related design efforts really haven't been acknowledged by the public. And so for the benefit of the public, I wanted to share the following information. 10-foot setbacks across northwest, east, south is what is required by our zone district, 10 feet. Our setbacks on Las Armas are 30 feet from property line, 40 feet from street. On Hollister, 44 feet from property line, 74 feet from street. On Villajaro, 37 feet from property line, 47 feet from street. So we're at 3 to 4 times the minimum requirements that the general commercial zone district requires. I should note that the Hideaway has setbacks of 10 to 15 feet, so we far exceed what our neighbors have. We hope that the DRB and the public can appreciate our efforts to incorporate these generous landscape setbacks. I'd like to now turn over the presentation to Phil to go over the architecture.
Thank you, Troy. We'll go ahead and focus on the elevations, some of which we brought today in a colored form, which might be illustrative for what we're looking at in terms of the building forms as it relates to landscape. So I'll get these situated here. There might need to be a touch bit of zooming out to see the edges, but we'll start here at the north elevation. So what we have here is thank you very much. We have a side-by-side elevation of the architecture with and without landscape, just to illustrate some of the points that were made earlier about, for instance, the limited use of corrugated steel applications. There we go, perfect, thank you so much. And then this is the north side of the building too, so the edge that probably is the least concerning in terms of its application, but we still are four-sided in terms of how the architecture wraps around the building and how the faux windows march along the edge to help break up the building faces, and then how the sort of corner elements and roof lines project on all four sides of the building. You can see here as well along this edge that we have a number of preserved eucalyptus trees who will be remaining along the northern edge. And then as we flip to the next elevation, we'll go to the west. We'll now be looking at this edge here where we will see this is on Las Armas, where we have the emergency vehicle access gates that will be for, like just we said, the emergency vehicles only, and the introduction of the new roof lines that help to break up the masses that face that street in what we feel is a very suitable way in terms of the vernacular we're using for the architecture, which has these long roof pitch elements that hide the sort of parapet you would normally get for a big building of that nature, the introduction of a window element that helps to further underscore the barn-like stylization, and then some sub canopies that help to break up the more human scale levels at the first floor. Again, these building elements that you see here aren't even at the street edge. They're behind a first floor single story element that is, like Troy said, within 35 or 40 feet of the edge of the property. Along our southern border, which is our second, our long elevation along Hollister, you can see that we have simplified the elevations. You may recall that we had a lot more architectural breakups along the edge, and there were some fair criticisms for how those didn't feel like they belonged. And so the team heard those comments and have taken to introduce a simplified palette of the board and batten metal siding with the rusty corrugated accents with the barn door elements that you see along these edges. And obviously, when we see them all along line, they may feel like they start to repeat, which they do. But once you add the landscape and you see it in perspective, it's a very different experience, and we'll happy to be showing you that in a little bit. You can see here that Aaron Carroll's done a great job with the landscape. Again, another element that you will see in perspective once we look at the visuals, and that the some of the elements that Troy covered, like the monument signs versus building mount, have been incorporated. And then on our final edge, where the manager's office is, which is located right here, we have the last edge on Via Harrow, where we see the final shot of the monument sign on that corner, and then how the building elements begin to step back again. Second story elements are behind the manager's office and introduce the pitched barn roof elements. And then I don't honestly know how the YouTube video works in this scenario, but
So relative to that, we can, if you want a deeper dive into architecture in terms of site plan and floor plan, we could do that. Alternatively, we would then turn our attention to landscape architecture, and then come back to this flyby video, which really tries to wrap up the combination of the architecture and landscaping and provide sort of a human level experience relative to the overall project. So at the pleasure of the board, if you'd like to take a look at sheet by sheet or select sheets, happy to do that, or we could turn our attention to landscaping.
I'd say let's go to the landscaping now.
Wonderful. All right, Aaron, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Good to see some familiar faces. Yeah, as many of you mentioned at the last meeting, the landscaping is obviously a really important component of this project. I'd say overall the design concept is similar to some of other projects you see along Hollister, such as Decker's Outdoor Corporation, Camino Real Marketplace, where we're using large masses of plantings. And several board members last time made a comment about saving more existing trees. Mm-hmm. And so the previous plan, we only had 14 existing trees to remain. And on this plan, we have 27. And the trees we're saving are primarily along Las Armas, which are eucalyptus trees, as well as near this wetland area, which are primarily eucalyptus with a few coast live oaks that we're saving in there as well. So overall, we're proposing approximately 75,000 square feet of new landscaping, which is almost 2 acres, and additional 18,000 square feet of existing landscaping to remain. So generous amount of landscape on this site. The primary screening tree is Monterey cypress, which which are these trees here, which are, I think a very appropriate tree to this site since we're so close to the ocean and they grow fast and they're evergreen. The secondary street trees are Quercus tomentella, island oak, which we're using in the parkway as well as in the parking lot. And then in the wetland area, we've got some sycamores, elderberries, things like that. Yeah, I think I had some white alder on the plan as well. So yeah, the power lines, we can't plant huge trees in this area because of existing power lines as well as in this area. So we can plant trees closer to the building and out towards the parkway. So that's what I've done. And we can't plant trees in the biofiltration area either. So that's kind of dictated how the trees were laid out. But we do have some toyons, flannel bush, things like that. Stuff will get, 15 feet high under those power lines. We also eliminated the green screens from the buildings, which I think helped simplify the architecture. Shade in the parking and driveway areas will need to be light colored asphalt, a beige colored asphalt throughout to achieve our shade requirement. Also, I don't believe this was a comment at the last DRB, but it was a comment I made to the team, which was the previous design we had along the curb was the sidewalk. It was just borderline dangerous just having the sidewalk right on the curb like that. So now we have a meandering sidewalk with a parkway with street trees, which is a much more pleasant experience along Hollister. We have a preliminary irrigation plan, which is all drip. Fortunately, we have a existing reclaimed water meter here, Goleta Water District meter, so the entire site will be on reclaimed water. And just to touch on drainage, most of the site flows to the biofiltration planter here, and that's all irrigated with, planted with native grasses. And Kevin Carter, our civil engineer, is also here today if you have any drainage or grading questions.
Okay, and then we have a video we'd like to share with you.
Okay.
And Phil will narrate. It's quite brief.
Does staff have that queued up?
All right, we're on Via Haro at the manager's office. We're going by the publicly accessible walkway to the front of the building, and we're seeing some of the planting concepts come into view at the arrival monument sign. You can see the Quercus tomentilla and the Monterey cypress in the background with some peekaboo views of the rusty metal siding and barn door accents. Some of the large specimen succulents and feature trees are visible here. And you can see what Aaron was saying earlier about how the power line issue doesn't seem to be much of an issue in terms of how the landscape works. It works just fine with the large flannel bushes and toyons as sort of a mid-ground level. You have sort of a street tree fill with the tomentilla oaks that are in the foreground, and then you have the meandering walkway, which creates a nice kind of residential feel for meandering along that edge and experiencing a very generous landscape border between the street right-of-way and the buildings. The buildings are tucked back in the landscape through the use of large grass forms, mass planting, and some of the trees. This is the prototypical, showcase, like, hey, there's self-storage in this building, and we give you a peekaboo view in this element here with some of the extra windows to make it feel a little bit more residential scale in that element. And then the forms repeat as we head down to Las Armas and have the corner element with the roof lines that create a little barn-like structure. And this will wrap up here in just a minute. We have a downlight over that particular window there, and then the signage probably is a separate permit like most cities, and that would get reviewed. But we would have something along these lines as our intro with the internally, halo lit letters with the use of rusty Corten backers. Here we get the eucalyptus that are existing to remain preserved along this edge, which further to help screen any interior buildings that you might catch views of in terms of the second story buildings beyond. The fire access road is coming up. I apologize for the brief end. It's going to end real abruptly, but this is the fire access, and then that last building we're about to come to. We spent a fair bit of time trying to compose this roof line here, which is more of the barn elements and canopies over accent doors. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Phil, thank you so much. So in closing, we believe the revised plans are responsive to DRB's comments. We hope you agree. With respect to some of the comments you received through our project revisions, we believe we've adequately addressed all pertinent design-related comments. I do want to highlight the 18% reduction in square footage, the elimination of all three-story elements, the simplification of the architectural design, the preservation of 27 existing trees, the addition of 92 trees, the 33% landscape coverage, the generous wide landscape setbacks along each of our street frontages. We can appreciate that change for some within the community can be difficult. But I do want to emphasize the following. Self-storage is a community-serving use. The Planning Commission, City Council, and zoning the property general commercial, which allows for self-storage, has in effect already found the use to be appropriate for the site. The zoning ordinance, in fact, defines general commercial as follows. This district is intended to provide appropriate sites for a diverse set of commercial uses that do not need highly visible locations or that may involve activities that are not compatible with other uses through implementation of the general commercial land use designation in the general plan. In addressing if the project is compatible with the neighborhood, I would encourage you to think about what constitutes a neighborhood. Neither the general plan nor the zoning ordinance define neighborhood. The Hideaway is certainly a neighborhood, as is the Bluffs. I would suggest if you think of our site, which truthfully feels like an entire city block, bounded by 3 public streets as part of a separate 12-acre commercial neighborhood. Is self-storage compatible with other existing and proposed commercial uses in a commercial neighborhood? I would argue absolutely. Even if you were to say that the Hideaway and the commercial neighborhood should be joined together as one neighborhood, punch and cookies for all, one must ask how self-storage, which is intended to provide residents and businesses with safe and secure areas to store excess belongings and vehicles and equipment, is incompatible with residential. It is not a high traffic generator. It does not generate off-site parking complaints. It does not create excess noise at any time of day, and is particularly quiet at night. It does not create offensive odors. It does not allow the use or storage of hazardous materials. It does not displace residents, and in fact, allows for bedrooms to be used for housing people, not belongings, and allows for garages to be used for storing cars and/or for garage conversions, thus creating new residential opportunities. Self-storage frees up residential driveway space, offices, and yard areas for their intended use, rather than inefficiently devoting these areas for vehicle and equipment storage. It is a low water user. It is a low energy user. It does not generate excessive calls for police, fire, or ambulance services. Clearly, self-storage is compatible with residential use.
No.
We believe the proposed size, bulk, and scale is not out of character for the community. It is suburban in character and is appropriate to the site. The 2-story residential buildings are similar in height to the proposed 1- and 2-story self-storage buildings. The self-storage buildings, while larger in size in comparison to residential buildings, are broken up through the use of varied roof planes and architectural detailing. Proposed landscaping further screens the buildings from the street. Even if the Hideaway is considered a part of our commercial neighborhood, the proposed project size, bulk, and scale is not out of character for the community. It is suburban in character, meshes well with the development within the vicinity, and is appropriate to the site and the neighborhood. We respectfully, therefore, ask for DRB's positive comments this afternoon and evening. And this concludes our presentation. We welcome any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Get rid of it.
Public comments?
Yes, thank you, Chair Branch. I have received 4 speaker slips, and as a reminder to those on the Zoom webinar, if you'd like to speak to this item, please use the raise hand feature and I will call upon you. Chair Branch, as I mentioned, I have 4 speaker slips, starting with Bernd Schumacher, followed by Robert Miller.
Very good. I would just like to reiterate to the public before you speak that we're an aesthetic board. So if your comments are related to the design of what the buildings look like, what the site looks like, you have I think it's 3 minutes. And but if it's more land use related, in other words, you don't think something like that should be on that site, that's not our purview. So just trying to focus your attention there. So please proceed.
Well, I think what's important here is that I appreciate the details that were presented, and certainly it all hangs together. I don't have a problem with that at all. But something that all of you should know, and that doesn't matter what you believe in self-storage, is that in all of Europe, there are 2,500 self-storage facilities. In all of Asia, there are 3,000. In the United States, there are 50,000 self-storage facilities. 90% of all self-storage facilities on planet Earth are in the United States. Okay? So in general, people should be discouraged from getting any self-storage at all. Goodwill would be a good idea. There are alone between here and Montecito, actually here at Carpinteria, there are 20 self-storage facilities at all. You guys have 1,300 units. Let's say there's 10,000 per outfit. That means there's 20,000 units. There are 10,000 inhabitants in Montecito. So for each inhabitant in Montecito right now, there are 2 units. Okay, already, this is a fact, that's how it is. Those are the numbers. So looking at my neighborhood, and I live in Hideaway, I don't see the use at all of this place. Whatever you presented in terms of details sounds pretty good. I'm not an architect. You came with numbers. These guys here, they see this all the time, these presentations, and they'll come up with detailed issues here. But things that you need to also bring to us is how are you screening the renters? Anyone from anywhere can come here. Are there any background checks made on these people? From what I understand, these units are usually not inspected as to what their contents is. So therefore, anyone can bring anything. Anything from illegal drugs, guns, and explosives. So I'm down to 1 minute here. This is a area that could be well served. And again, this is just a basic issue. A human factors issue is we could use affordable housing. We could use an urgent care center there. There are plans for a fire station that have been sitting there for like 7 years. It hasn't been built. So if I have an explosive going off in your self-storage, I don't even have a fire department to put it out. So the neighborhood could have a breakfast lunch place. A bookshop could be there. You're having all these people coming in and out across from the senior citizens place. Okay, you're saving Hideaway, but you're throwing the onus onto those elderly folks on the other side. I don't think you have really a leg to stand on to put another self-storage facility, considering that there are 2 units per inhabitant of Montecito, just to give you an idea. 20,000 units existing already.
Thank you very much. And by the way, your entire comment was land use related. So I didn't hear anything in there about aesthetics. It's not a criticism. What I'm doing is I'm suggesting that you should, if you feel strongly about those comments, Planning Commission is the place where that should be heard.
I'll bring it up.
So, but thank you for participating in the process. That's important. So,
Speaking next, Robert Miller, followed by Tim Morphy.
Good afternoon, Chair Branch and members of the Design Review Board. My name is Bob Miller, Robert Miller to some. I live at the Hideaway. And I'll just say at the outset, I think my comments do pertain to land use, but they're all related to the design of what we're facing. 10 years ago, the state sought to build a new CHP station on this very same property. Their concept plans depicted a project roughly 1/10 the size of this project. Both the city, which had no authority to stop the CHP project, and the community strongly objected because the CHP project was incompatible with our surrounding residential neighborhoods. This project is much worse because it is 10 times larger. Jennifer Carmen, then the city's director of planning and environmental review, said in a letter to the state that the proposed CHP project needed to be harmonious with the adjoining residential uses and maintain the character and livability of the existing neighborhoods. Then and current mayor Paula Perotti said in a letter to the state, from its inception, the city has carefully planned for growth and development in a responsible manner. On the west side of Goleta, the city worked very closely with developers to assure that new residential developments would respect the tranquil and environmentally sensitive nature of the area. The developers and city did not always agree, but in the end, compromises were reached, and most everyone agrees the results have been extremely positive for the city, close quote. Then city manager Michelle Green said that the combination of the bland and institutional architecture make the site look like a prison complex. As a result, the aesthetic impact from the facility will seriously degrade the quality of life of the existing and future area residents. In December 2015, over 100 residents showed up at a state hearing to voice their objections to the CHP project. A month later, the state CHP commissioner wrote to me that he had decided to build a new office. He had decided not to build a new office at 7780 Hollister Avenue. He said it was his desire to identify a location that will work for the local community as well as the CHP. We sincerely hope that the developer of this project will reach the same conclusion. This project remains incompatible with our residential neighborhoods. Each of the existing 7 self-storage facilities in Goleta are all appropriately located in industrial and commercial areas. A self-storage facility in the middle of our residential community is obviously the wrong use of this property and very much not appropriate. Thank you very much listening to my comments.
Thank you, Chair Branch. I have 2 more speaker slips. Speaking next, Tom Morphy, followed by Cosmo Peroni.
Okay. Tim Morphy, but that's neither here nor there right now.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I echo a lot of the comments that have already been made about both the aesthetics as well as the land use here. I would submit, while I respect your comments about land use, that door was already opened. So I feel like we should have the opportunity to respond to comments made by the gentleman making their presentation. Bottom line is I feel this is like the wrong location. A community, a neighborhood is much larger than a small little area like that, and it's definitely part of what we're a much larger community that includes places like the Hideaway and the Bluffs and other things there, and to stick what is basically kind of an industrial commercial prison aesthetic right in the middle of a neighborhood like that just doesn't make any sense and inappropriate for what is really a residential neighborhood. I would have a somewhat of a difference with Bob's comment a second ago about the number of storage units in Goleta, because I did a search just earlier today and it's more like 12 that we have in Goleta. And there's 12 in Goleta, and there are only 10 if you take the Goleta line down to Summerlin. The population of that area is close to 3 times the population of up here. Why do we need another one? And Dr. Schumacher's comments about the number in this country, we got to ask ourselves, and that really is a design issue, I think, for our community. Why do we need more storage units? I got rid of mine I got adult kids that don't want stuff, and I found a home for all that stuff. And people need to do that. We get too much stuff, and it speaks to design issues within our communities. So I would really ask you to rethink why they're doing this and why we really need this kind of a facility here. So I would thank you. And thank you guys for the good work that you guys did to try and come around a little bit. I'm sorry that I feel you came up short. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Speaking next, Cosmo Peroni.
Cosmo Peroni, I also live at the Hideaway, and I strongly support the predecessors who made the comments, but I am going to switch the strategy here and go to the Goleta strategic plan and its emphasis on communities and the way they should be developed and maintained. And I wish that from now until the end of the process, all of the city agencies that are involved would consider that as part of the evaluation process that goes on. I also noted that Initiative 4 of the strategic plan talks about economic vitality. However, this project doesn't provide economic vitality. It is a passive business model. It just sits there with one employee. Where is the true benefit to Goleta in a passive business model that doesn't hire anyone, and it doesn't develop a product, and doesn't do any interactions other than the leasing of the space? That's not economic vitality. So please look at it from the perspective of a strategic plan that says we want a community that's well suited to the anchored community that exists now with the Elwood Bluff, the revamped golf course that's going to come on. Look at that from the perspective of a uniform community, and does it really allow for this kind of a project to be inserted into it? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Chair Branch, I'm not currently seeing any hands raised on the Zoom webinar, and I have no further speaker slips at this time.
Okay, we'll move to questions. Cecilia, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I do. I actually have one for staff. So Barry, I don't understand why there is this zoning in the midst of these residential neighborhoods. I appreciate that's probably been around for a long time. Can you just give me some little understanding of, since a lot of people have questions on that?
I can't answer that.
Okay.
I wasn't in the process of having anything to do with that.
So it's just been city, when it incorporated, that was a zoning or some similar zoning to what the city had.
Likely.
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh, maybe, okay.
Oh, okay.
I can speak to part of it. So I've done some research. So I think at the transition from the county to the city, much of the property, I don't know about the Hideaway, but this property and then certainly the Westmont Senior Housing, that was all zoned MRP. So you're aware that you have research industrial parks, all along Hollister Avenue. So at some point, that MRP changed to commercial, general commercial. In fact, the Westmont Senior Housing is still zoned general commercial. It's not zoned residential. So I'm not sure what the zoning of the Hideaway originally was, but at least that gives you some context for our site and to the east.
That's helpful. Okay, thank you. I have a question on the trees. I think I wrote from the staff report that 159 trees are on the site, 145 are to be removed and replaced by 85. This number is somewhat different than what you gave me, and I'm sort of confused by this. Could you just clarify exactly what's the deal is with the trees?
There's 160 existing trees,
Okay.
27 of which are to remain, which leaves 133 trees to be removed. However, some of those are less than ordinance size, which is less than 4-inch diameter trunks. But we've documented all of them anyways.
And so the trees that are being removed are what?
A wide range of trees, mostly eucalyptus.
And if I may, please kindly remember just to make sure your microphone is turned on. Thank you so much.
Primarily eucalyptus. There were some coast live oaks that were planted in the old parking lot that are really small and
Not very-
not healthy that are being removed. There's some palm trees that are being removed. I mean, I can hand you over the.
Yeah, there is a plan that shows the tree removal, but
Yeah.
it's basically a parking lot that they planted out this with all these ornamentals, and then now that the parking lot's gone away, it's hard to sort of navigate around that.
It's an interesting exercise to look at this stuff on the internet, on my computer. Anyway, so I just thought I'd ask. So the other question I have is, there's a manager's office and an apartment. Place for the, right?
Yeah, so quite a few self-storage projects and increasingly so. Typically, we'll integrate an on-site residence for the manager. And so what that does is it provides 24/7 security, which is a positive, of course. And also it's an employee amenity. So as you know, housing is a little expensive in this community. And so the ability to provide housing for an employee and to be on site and to have provide a security function, it's sort of a win-win in our opinion relative to that.
I'm sorry to jump around here, just these are my notes. So on your landscape plan, it looks pretty on the video. I'm just wondering the practicality of the plants that you've chosen to install in the project. I mean, I didn't see this plan. I just looked at the architecture, but can you kind of go over?
Practicality to install them?
Well, no, whether or not, you know, there's a lot of pretty pictures when we look at the video, and I'm not sure what all those are, how they're very hardy. It seems to me like you need more bushes and bigger things to kind of hide the building and that kind of stuff, rather than some of these nice, maybe you have a lot of ornamentals, I don't know.
There's quite a few natives. I'd say probably 75% native plants.
And what size are they?
You mean a mature size or initial size?
Well, both.
So I guess I would say that the video you saw is approximately 8 to 10 years maturity.
Okay, so there are a lot of nice, pretty colors in that. So I'm just wondering, are they? What are they exactly?
Oh, you got Monterey cypress, island oak, coffee berry, flannel bush.
So, but what were all those ones in the front of the video near the sidewalk? What were those kind?
Those are Baccharis ground cover. That's a native ground cover.
Some questions I had. I'll come back. Those are my initial ones. Thank you.
Okay, Jim, questions?
Yeah, part of my question, I just wanted to thank the community for making their comments. And also you, Chair Branch, for clarifying that this board is not about, although maybe it should be, but land planning, but really about the aesthetics of the design. And so with that, a couple of questions. On the building heights, if we go to some of the elevations, I'm curious what we're looking at for ridge heights of these buildings.
For instance, this corner element is 20 feet, 4 inches to the top of the ridge.
Okay.
That's by design in order to pop up some extra building mass so that the side gable can die into the building below it, and there'd be a little bit of a hierarchy as the building sort of steps a little bit.
What are we looking at for, just a couple of, like, what's our highest ridge height that we would, and I'm mostly curious about what we'd be seeing along Las Armas and potentially on.
And we do have a section we can show that might be helpful in that.
And then the civil sections.
Oh, there you
So for
go.
example, yeah, building E, on Hollister, building F along Las Armas, building A. Oh, there we go, thank you.
All right, so to answer your question, at Los Alamos, the building height at the first floor element is 14 foot 3 inches to the square building mass. And then the second floor building, which is set back into the site, is 2810 to the upper level.
And that's the south section of Los Alamos. And there are sections in the plans, but so anyway, so